All right, so Saturday night, the last style bender got the last word in the rivalry so far between himself and Alex Pereira, because as we know, Pereira had beaten him 3 times, knocked him out twice, taking away his world title, taking away his pay-per-view points, taking away some of his pride. So, of course, Izzy was very motivated, got the job done. 1-2, boom, drops him, hits him again, sits him down. That's the one that dropped him, sorry. Then a massive hammer fist, and then he unloads with the bow and arrow. But that isn't where the celebration ended. Oh, no, 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 no. And you got to think that Izzy, I don't know if he planned on doing this, but if he did, so what? What he did was he turned around, he looked in the audience, he saw Alex Pereira's son. He pointed right at him like that, and then boom, fell down on the floor and mocked being unconscious and falling on the floor. So a lot of people on social media are saying that he's out of line. He's only a young boy. And, you know, Izzy shouldn't have done that. However, I think I feel different. I think that Izzy was totally justified in doing so. Listen, when 2 men step into an octagon, or women for that matter, and they fight, one wins, one loses. Okay, some people have different styles of celebrating. And some of the celebrations are some of the most iconic moments in the sport. Remember, Chuck Liddell would lean back and do that and run around the octagon. It was always amazing seeing that. When Rampage Jackson would knock somebody out, he would howl and turn into the werewolf, so to speak. We've had BJ Penn licking the blood off the gloves when he beat Joe Daddy Stevenson, and the list goes on. We would have Tito Ortiz. He used to do the grave digger. He would shovel a grave and then, you know, smooth out all the land and stuff like that. And these things, they are some of the most iconic moments in the sport, and seeing people celebrate, whether you knock them out submission or just a defeat, it doesn't matter. You've won. You won the battle. You've got every right to celebrate. But this one was a little bit more personal, because let's go back in time. When Izzy got knocked out against Alex Pereira, and it was a bad knockout, kind of like the way Izzy knocked out Pereira Saturday night, equally as bad. Izzy was on the floor. He was unconscious, and Alex Pereira's son, and again, I'm not talking bad about his son. He's a kid. He's a kid. You know, for that, he gets a pass. He doesn't know how serious this type of thing is. All he was doing was supporting his father and celebrating his father's win. But what he did, he mocked Izzy. He stood there stiff as a board and then just fell over, right? Obviously, that pissed off Izzy, right? Because he probably thinks that that's disrespectful. As I say, Pereira's son's only a boy. He's a kid. He doesn't know about these things. But here's where I do think Izzy was justified, because as I say, Pereira's son, I'm sorry, I don't know his name, Alex's son doesn't know the protocol, doesn't know how serious these things are, doesn't know that when you get knocked out, hey, there's a potential you might not wake back up. There's a potential that you might have brain damage or long-lasting injuries, okay? Doesn't know the seriousness of the matter because he's a child. But what should have happened after that, and I am not telling Alex Pereira how to raise his son, I'm giving justification for Izzy, is that maybe he could have had a word with his son and say, hey, don't do that. Don't mock somebody that's been knocked out unconscious. And maybe you owe Israel an apology. As I say, I'm not telling him how to father his son. But in Israel's mind, in the mind of the champ, the new champ that just reclaimed his belt in devastating fashion, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Is that, oh yeah? Well, when I got knocked out, you mocked me. Well, guess what? Now you're going to see how that feels when it's your father sitting there. And hey, maybe Izzy taught him a lifelong lesson. Maybe taught him something very, very valuable there. Or maybe Izzy crossed the line and shouldn't have done that. I'm not sure how you feel about that, and no doubt you'll let me know in the comments. For Izzy, it's a huge moment. I mean, he just overcome the bogeyman, a man that had beaten him 3 times. Do you know how brave it is for him to step back in there and do that after getting beaten and knocked out twice, but beaten 3 times? That's a hell of a thing to do. So I've got no problem with the celebrations whatsoever. I do have a slight problem with him saying that it's the end of the chapter, the end of the book. I think they have to fight one more time. The rubber match is what needs to happen. But still, to go back to Pereira's son, listen, he's going to get over it. He's not going to be scarred by that. His father woke up. Alex is fine. He came on Twitch. He said, listen, just to let everyone know, I'm doing all right. So don't worry about him. Don't worry about his son. And don't worry about Izzy. Izzy's living life to the fullest. He's made a shit ton of money. He's out there. He's partying in Miami afterwards. He's got Tito Ortiz there. He's got Chuck Liddell. Tito's dancing like this, right? They're all bowing down and giving credit to Chuck Liddell for being the OG that he is. And he's celebrating. He's loving life and he's having a great great time. But that was a tremendous celebration. You know, the 3 arrows and then the mocking of the knockout, whether you liked it or not, it was still quite the celebration. And as I said, you know, some of those celebrations when people win fights, they are some of the best. Like Josh Barnett back in the day he would do the throat slit. Thiago Santos would do that. And that actually became kind of a familiar thing that a lot of people do as well. What are some of the other ones? As I said, Rampage Jackson used to, you know, do the werewolf. Chuck Liddell, as I said before. BJ Penn. What else do we have? Some of the legendary celebrations. Oh, Roy Nelson always rub his big fat belly, wouldn't he? And that's just part of that. Most people jump on top of the cage because that's a good feeling. And even though for some reason it's in the rules, you're not supposed to jump on top of the cage, and you can actually get a fine from the Athletic Commission. I don't know why. You know, maybe there's a possibility for somebody to get hurt, kicked in the leg, head or something as you're jumping onto the fence. But that is in the rule book. You're not allowed to jump on it. Well, I tell you what, I will jump on that fence every single time. And I remember somebody said, oh, just to remind you, don't jump on the fence. I think it's when I was fighting for the world title. I'm like, if you think I'm going to win the championship of the world and not jump on that fence and give it one of them, you're out of your goddamn mind. So there it is. Pereira celebrated. Pereira got one back on father and on son. Now, critics might say that he's being petty, say that Pereira's son is just a child and doesn't know any better. But what do you think? I understand people saying that, I really do. You know, but for Izzy, this was such a personal thing, and it was such a personal triumph and a victory. He got his belt back, he got his career back on track, and he's still the middleweight king of the goddamn world. So you can't blame the man. And Izzy doing that celebration, that topped off one of the most memorable nights, of course. Jorge Masvidal was defeated, and then he retired. Gilbert Burns will be the backup fighter now against Leon Edwards and Colby Covington. And it was so awesome, by the way, just to talk about Gilbert Burns for a second, because Gilbert's a softly spoken guy, but he comes out to the post-fight press conference and demanded that he be the backup fighter for Leon Edwards and Colby Covington. And Dana White came out and said, hey, yeah, absolutely, let's do it.
I almost chased a done deal, Colby, in Leon, in London, if I'm not wrong. It's almost a done deal. Everything, just a little details. I'm going to be a backup. I'm going to. I'm not asking. I'm demanding that I'm going to, because whenever they ask, anytime the UFC gave me a call asking for a opponent, I say yes. And now I'm demanding that I'm going out there. I'm going to do my training camp to 5 rounds. I go to London. I'll be the backup, and I'm the next online. I'm not online. I'm next in line to fight for the title. And otherwise, let me go, my guy. Let me do my thing, you know. These guys making $1 million here on the other organizations, you know, step up. That's it. I'm fighting. I'm a backup for the next fight, and I'm fighting for the title next.
So there it is. It looks like that one's set, even though Leon Edwards isn't feeling it. You know, he said he doesn't want that. He said Jorge fumbled the bag and none of them deserve it. Who's next? Hashtag King Leon. I do think it's going to be Colby Covington. In fact, it is going to be Colby. And Gilbert Burns will be there to be the backup fighter. So a lot of things were resolved on Saturday night. But ultimately, this video was about the celebration of Israel Adesanya. I've got no problem with it. I've got no issue. I doubt Pereira has. I doubt Pereira's son has. But what do you think? Uncalled for? A little bit petty, a little bit too much, bad taste, crossed the line? You let me know in the comments. Subscribe and ring the bell. See you soon.